Brothers, welcome to the deep dive. This is a section of the council that we use this video or this time in the videos where we take a minute and we break down a council meeting, and we use this particular avenue called the deep dive. And we'll take some parts out of the council and that we didn't have time to really deep dive in and really give explanation on a lot of things. So we're gonna deep dive today on something that we talked about in November 2024's council meeting. And I talked about pivoting and understanding, like, this coming up 2025 and 2026, there's going to be some things that we're going to have to change. There's going to be some things that we're going to have to do different. But I want to recap this video that we have, and I want you guys to see something. I want to basically go back to a video that we posted from the council, and let's review this and then kind of get you guys up to speed of why we talked about pivoting.
Side, one way gonna be easy, the other way gonna be hard. And the Bible talks about it with these principles, that if you take the narrow road, it's the hardest road, but it's one that's gonna give you the most benefits. Sometimes if we mentally challenged, we wanna take the easy road. We wanna quit. Let me just go on over here and just get this shit out of the way and avoid it. You know you should be going right, but it's harder that way. So coming up in 2025, some of us gonna have to make some decisions. We call this point right here, right at this point, is where you're gonna have to pivot. You may have to pivot and stay with the job and take the chance, or take a pivot, I was sharing with Caroline, and jump the boat and go the other way. But this going the other way, the family got to pivot with you. And sometimes we get stuck right here. And we be sitting in this situation for 3 years, 5 years, trying to figure which way we gonna go. At some point, dog, you gotta go left or right. You gotta go left or right. As I was saying before, don't let the bottom fall out to force you to go somewhere. Sometimes it's gonna have to happen. But coming in this new year, things are gonna change. It's gonna look different. We're gonna see stuff that we never seen before. And we gotta be prepared for it mentally. It always starts mental first. You gotta be able to be mentally strong to handle all the shit that's coming. We don't know what Trump gonna fucking do. We don't know what the backlash is gonna be, him being in office. But we can't let that stop us. Right. So if there's a time that we gotta make a pivot, we just gotta do it. Sometimes we just gotta jump. We just gotta do it. So we talked about this being in this point right here. Don't stay here too long. It's at this point where you should be reaching out to the brothers. I'm stuck. Hey, how do you deal with this? How did you deal with that? Pick up the phone. It don't mean, hey, let's go have a smoke. Let's go have a drink. If you don't smoke, let's go drink. If you don't smoke, come to the house. Or if you got any brothers in here, y'all hooking up, go have a drink somewhere. Ask the question, what the fuck would you do? Go ahead, Doc. Even that is something that has to be taught in black men, is to pick up the phone and make the call.
Please.
Do it. Sometimes it's just let it call, have an organic conversation, and let it flow into a situation. Let the conversation flow right into it. But coming in this new year, we got to lean on each other. We got to lean on each other. It's okay. Now, I say we're talking about that pivot. You're going to have an unintentional pivot, which is the defense, or you're going to have an intentional pivot, which is offense. You're going to make the turn before the turn has to make you. You got to start, and I was sharing with some of the brothers here, sometimes you brothers are going to work and you're ignoring the red flags. You know you about to get laid off, but you just keep saying, it's going to get better. President Trump going to come in, he going to save our company. No, motherfucker, you going to get laid off. Yeah, you're going to pray, you're going to make this layoff change. And they laughing because we all been there. We are, hey, ignoring the red flags like a motherfucker. You know this motherfucker about to drown. Get off the ship before the motherfucker sink. But that's years. This is, and then like this is years of we understanding. Nigga, I should just leave. Know the motherfucker was gonna lay you off. You see it. So when you about to start going to work, start paying attention to what's around you, what's going on in your job, because it's gonna change. And we want to make it intentional, not unintentional. Unintentional hurts. You start losing shit, cars, houses. Hey, the guy know I should have left.
So yeah, so that was a piece of what we talked about at the council in November. And as I said before, we talked about the why. We talked about the why. We came up with this, me and brother Kanye, one of our board members. We were sitting here talking about how we noticed that over the years of our careers that we were always faced with the why. You know, you're always going to get to a point in your career or in life, fatherhood, being a husband, whatever it may be, that you're going to have to make a decision. And so we use this why as an example of, you know, which way will you go? And as we talked about in the video, that sometimes going left may be easier than it is to go right. But we know, based upon the biblical principle, that the more results, the more benefits, and your success relies in the narrow road, the harder road, right? And most of us by nature, we're going to take the path of least resistance. And so this is what I wanted to dive in a little bit today and talk about this why. And why it's important to understand that, especially coming into 2025 and 2026, under this new president that we have, as we can already see it, as I said from the video, at that time, this is November 2024, he was elected. Now we had to figure out, okay, what was his plans? What was he going to do? But I told you guys in the meeting that anytime you have a particular businessman coming to a country or being a president of a country, things are going to look totally different because they're not as sociable. They're more on the business side of things. They're more economically focused. So there's going to be some job loss. There's going to be some things going to happen. In other words, there's going to be some shaking up. That doesn't mean that the world's coming to an end. It's just that we have to be ready that whatever that shakeup may be, how it may affect us, we got to be able to move. And we got to be able to move quickly. And the thing is, a lot of times, as I said in the video, we'll get stuck with the unintentional. We sit there and wait till we get laid off. We'll sit there and wait till we get fired. We'll sit there and wait till the actual boat starts to sink, and then we're still just like on the movie Titanic, where you had the guys playing the music, you know, the whole time, and the boat is constantly sinking, and they just steady playing, you know, to the end. And that's how some of us get on our jobs. We get stuck. We sit there playing that violin. You know the ship is sinking. And so we got the unintentional and then we got the intentional. And so here at the council, we focus on the intentional. That means getting ahead of it. We're on the offensive mindset. When you start acting under the unintentional side of things, that means you're on the defense, right? You're going to react however it comes to you. But when we're on the offense, we're looking ahead. We can start seeing the scene. We can start seeing the red flags. And then we got to start making adjustments. We don't want to wait till the last minute, as I said before. We don't want to wait till the bottom fall out and then try to react because it's too late. You know what I mean? You can still make it, but it's just more painful that way, right? And as men who's trying to grow in our careers and our business or whatever it may be, you know, we want to be proactive. We want to be in the offensive mode all the time. We don't want to wait till the bottom falls out. Now, so here's some things we need to consider before we get into what we're talking about today. It says the cost of living is up, but your paycheck stays the same. Layoffs are happening in hitting industries where they were once untouchable. I mean, there's because of AI and a lot of things that's going on, a lot of the jobs and industries that we work in, at one time, they were considered as lifelong jobs. But even a lot of those jobs are being affected. You can see how the government is starting to lay off because of the new president. He's doing a lot of layoffs. And here's a little short note for you guys. This ain't the first time. They're just making a big deal about it now. But it was actually under President Clinton's supervision where he had to do the same thing. So like those government jobs or those industries where you was pretty much guaranteed a job for a long time, we can start to see those things change. Those are some of the red flags that we have to understand, and it's time for us to make a pivot. Then you got the economy is shifting because the AI is replacing repetitious jobs. We've talked about this in the council as well, how we can see AI is coming in to replace a lot of the repetitious jobs, things you're just doing over and over and over and over. We talk about this a lot in tech. When I was coming up in the trades, how you see a lot of the factories are ran by robotics because it's the same movement all the time. One piece to here, one piece to there. They got a robot that can do that and do it better and do it for longer periods of time. So in those industries, you can see where robotics is starting to come into play. It's time to pivot, okay? And as this old American dream is cracking, like we can start to see that American dream of having a home, you know, what they say is a white picket fence and so on. That's starting to change. Even in that industry, the real estate industry is starting to change. You know, even as investors have to make different moves, and even as us as homeowners, we have to find more strategic ways to purchase a home or to change our lifestyle. And so we're going to go over a video in a second. I'm going to go over a video of a gentleman who's explaining how he had to pivot. And I'm just going to use this particular one because we're just talking about business right now and finances. But I'm using this video just kind of hone in on how a businessman has to make a pivot in real estate. So we're going to go over that today. And then we just talked about the unintentional and intentional pivots. And we talked about being an unintentional is the defensive side of things, and the intentional pivot is the offensive side. And these are the things that we have to understand is that this is where we're going. We want to stay on the offensive side. We want to be progressive in everything that we do. And this is what we do here at the council. Now, this is a big one here. This is the middle class is disappearing. You're going to hear that a lot, and this is due to of the lack of pivoting. People have got comfortable with what they're doing. They got comfortable with their daily lives. They got comfortable with their jobs, and they seen this change, and they decided, okay, well, I'm just going to stay here, or they take early retirement. And this is where they talk about the middle class is disappearing. You hear that all the time. I don't know if you guys listen to business, but they always talk about the middle class is starting to shrink. And that's because a lot of the people that were in middle class, they decided not to pivot. And if you're not pivoting, if you're not making a change, if you're not making some type of adjustment to what's going around you, yes, the middle class is going to shrink. And what that means is that the middle class is shrinking, that some of those people in the middle class are either going to the upper middle class, or some of those people in the middle class are going to drop below middle class. So the middle is gone, but you still have the upper and the lower. But the middle is just going to be, it's just spreading the gap to what we've heard all the time, the have and have-nots in the middle class. Here we talked about here, it says either you're going to build your economy or you're going to get swallowed up by someone else's. Here in 2025 and 2026 isn't about playing it safe. It's about taking or making strategic pivots. We have to find a way to make a strategic pivot, whatever industry you're in, whatever career you're in. If it's something that you got to start a job on the side or go get a second job or start a hustle on the side or another business that you've been wanting to do on the side, we have to make some type of pivot. We have to make some adjustment because you don't want to be in that position or in that place where you don't have a job anymore, right? Because you waited too late to pivot, right? And so we also talked about here, it says if your job is your only source of income, you're not safe. It says you're one decision away from being broke. And that is the honest to God truth. I've been there. And when I'm telling you these things is I've lived it. As you can see in the video, when we were talking about getting laid off, you can hear the older gentleman laughing because we've made it through, but we understand that we ignored the red flags. Especially if you were raised in the church, you were taught to just pray your way through this thing. And a lot of times prayer ain't got nothing to do with it. Sometimes in those situations where we're steady trying to hold on to something, God is allowing that situation to birth us into something new. And this is what been on the intentional, been on the offense. God will start showing you ahead of time and start giving you your ideas and your creative thoughts to say, okay, let's start to move over here now. We don't want to wait till the last minute. So we laughed about it, but it's the truth, because we knew that we seen the red flags, but we decided to hold on anyway. So just keep that in mind that, this next coming year in 2025, we are already in May. This is May 2025. Look how fast, from November 2024 to where we are now. And we've seen a lot change. We've seen a lot of stuff change. And the changes are coming right now. We're dealing with the tariffs right now. We don't see the effects of that probably until another 2 or 3 months from now, how it's going to affect the U.S. and us, personally. Now, here's the why that we talked about. Now, let's dive a little bit into this why. As you can see, I have two sides. You have the old way of doing things, and you have the new way of doing things. Now, when you get into that why, that black dot is you in the middle of that why. And this is what we talked about, is this is the time where you need to start reaching out. When you're starting to see the red flags and you're saying, okay, what do I need to do? This is where you start to get with brothers who are maybe in the field that you want to get in, or just some good old advice. Now, as you can see here, I have them highlighted. I have finance, career, and business. This is just those two things that we're focusing on in this video. But we're going to get into some other things too as far as the why is concerned. Some of us have to get our health better. Now, on the defensive side, we got, there's going to be a time where we got to make a pivot on our health. We've seen a lot of brothers right now coming down with a lot of sicknesses and illnesses, and they're forced to change their eating habits. They're forced to do certain things, where some of you brothers that are young, you got a chance to say, okay, let me start getting my health together now, so I don't have to end up with sugar diabetes or high blood pressure and in my 50s and 60s, and you're struggling, you're taking these medications. No, that's just an example of pivoting in your health. You got another one here with education. Some of us may have to go back to school to get some more skills, whether if it's going back to school or going to get certifications. There's some things that we may have to do. Our mental health is another thing. Your mental health, the pivot in mental health, your mental health pivot has got to be, okay, I know how I used to think. I know I got childhood trauma. We're going to touch on this a lot too in the council, where we've talked about it a lot, about, you're in that generation where you grew up without a father, right? And you don't know how to do a lot of things because you didn't have a father. A lot of young men that grew up without a father don't handle directions very well from another man. And two, what's the most important is sometimes when you haven't grown up without a father, you don't even know how to fellowship with other brothers. You find yourself always in your personal space, and you don't even know how to expand and to be a part of a brotherhood. So your mental health is going to be another pivot that we have to make in these coming years. The next video that we're going to be doing is going to be talking about mental health. We talked about this in the council. We're going to deep dive on that as well in these videos, is that we determined, or we discovered, that you have mental health and then you have mental exhaustion. And you're taking your mental exhaustion and you're trying to blend it in with mental health. And they're two separate things. And we got an awesome video of a black doctor explaining his whole trauma, and what he realized was it wasn't a mental issue, it wasn't a mental health problem, it was a mental exhaustion and just going through life, period. Okay, we talked about your relationships and being a father. There's some things you may have to change different in being a father. So when we look about that on the old way and then switching over, and then we got to pivot to something new, all these things that we just discussed, what I just talked about, you got to make some type of change. Right. And so right now, as I said before, we just focusing on the fitness, the finances and career and your business. Right. And so this is so important about making a pivot. You have to make that change, or you're going to perish. You're either going to pivot or you're going to perish. As we say in the hood, either you're going to barbecue or mildew, one of the two. All right. So this is the video I want to share with you guys. And let's discuss this video and hear what this young man has to say about how he sold all his real estate in the U.S. and he's starting to take his money and proceeds and starting to buy abroad, which is out of the country.
Was the worst year I ever had in real estate as far as losing money. Excuse me. I lost, and I'm talking Section 8, I'm talking veteran housing, I'm talking regular tenants that were paying. People lost a lot of jobs, and they played with the system. I lost roughly probably about, I'm going to keep it real, maybe about almost $100,000 Or for real estate. Or for real estate. Wow. Right? Because that comes from you having people play with the system. Yeah. People knew that, and they say landlord-friendly states. That didn't mean anything because the judge can give an eviction, but you need the sheriff to serve them. So I said, you know what? The areas are really going down. Even though the property value was going up in these areas, the tenant quality is going down. Tenants are losing jobs. People are losing jobs. AI is just literally getting rid of jobs. So my thing was, I sold them because I realized areas that's heavily dependent on Uber drivers, cashiers, factory workers, like manual labor people, those are the people losing jobs. And I said, I don't want no parts of it. That made sense for me to sell those. And now I went on to buy properties that are multi-units, 20, 30 units, buying properties internationally, properties in Thailand, Bali, Dominican Republic, places like that, because.
Now, what he's talking about here is he's starting to see the red flags. Now, he's saying that he has rental property in these areas where there's heavily Uber drivers, manufacturer workers, people who work jobs in a repetitious manner. And he's starting to see that AI is starting to come in and starting to replace a lot of those jobs. Now, we're talking about Uber driving. We here in Arizona, we have what is called Waymo. And you can see how Waymo is coming in. There's no driver needed. So even the Uber drivers are going to lose some of their business because Waymo can do it now. And just give you the prime example, I was going to pick up a friend from the airport, a good brother of mine. And when I was driving in the airport and I got down to where the departures and arrivals were, I seen nothing but Waymos. And what I was thinking was, I wasn't surprised of the Waymo and the driverless car. What I was thinking of is they got it down to a science that car can go into the airport, and you guys know how busy the airport is. There's cars in and out all the time. All these different turns you got to make. You know, you can go one wrong turn can have you going all the way around the airport. But these cars were figuring it out. They were getting through it, going to pick up the person, getting right back into traffic, and following their only way to their destination. So those are the things that he's noticing, is that in his community where his homes were, he's seen that the layoffs were starting to happen. And what he's talking about is that the people are starting to play the system, meaning that if we hit a recession or something heavy like when COVID hit, you know, a lot of the landlords couldn't charge rent. And so a lot of tenants were living for free. And so therefore, but here's the thing, you could be the landlord, the tenant is living for free, but the mortgage still had to be paid. The judge wasn't calling the mortgage companies and saying, hey, you know, let's give these tenants or these landlords or these owners or investors, let's hold off on the mortgages because the tenants aren't paying because we're passing the law because nobody could work. And so what he started to see is that, like, even now they're playing these games. You know, they're late on their rent. They know that they got 90 days for you to evict them. And then right before the 90th day, they pay their rent, and then it goes again to another 90 days. And so that's the hustle. And so what he's saying is he's starting to see the red flag and say, okay, listen, I got to get out of this area of real estate and I have to get into another part of the area of real estate. And he's going to go in to explain how he's done it.
That's the shift. So you got to understand and know when to pivot. Areas, I want everybody to look in your communities and think about this. And I said this before. We're going back to the 90s, bro. If you look at in LA, Figueroa, you know, and in Brooklyn, we got women back on the street selling their bodies, bro. Like out there in the street in broad daylight. You got drugs. You got job loss. And I'm looking going, how are people not able to eat in their homeless, but right up the block there's a $20 million development, there's a $3 million building, there's a $1.7 million brownstone, all this, but you got the drugs, that's 90s. You got the women back out selling their bodies, that's 90s. You got the job loss, that's the 90s. But then again, you got this thing digital, crypto, all this stock, all this money all around. The difference between that and the 90s, back the 90s, it was the dot-com boom area. Everybody was getting money. We was able to get money. See, now here's the same space, the same time. And I want y'all to look at these podcasts and other shows too, which I don't knock them. But here's the thing. What do you see most? prize picks,
Facts.
DraftKings.
Facts.
When a community of people are in a decline, you start seeing promotion of drugs and gambling and alcohol. So they coming for us. And I said, you know what? I'm getting out of that space, B, because I already know the problem of what's going to happen with real estate. Look, I'm not telling nobody not to get in real estate. What I'm telling you is buy in high quality areas where you're going to spend a lot more for a property, but get a lot better tenant, and you're going to pay more rent. But the objective is corporations is taking over the real estate space. And I'm not going to be too long-winded, but I want to try to have people understand.
Yeah.
It's just like when gold, people were able to go out, dig for gold, go get gold, and then have money. But then corporations and the government stepped in and said, we're going to take your gold, and now we're going to give you paper tender. They control the gold. Just like oil. Used to be able to get some land, they would go dig for oil, find oil, and now their family had wealth. But who stepped in? Corporations, and said, no, we got the oil. Yeah. Now, real estate's the same thing. Corporations come in and said, nope, we buying up everything, and we're going to make sure you can't afford it. They buying it all up at a price that they know in the future they're going to make money. If you look at all these high-rise buildings going up, they say for lease. Ain't nobody selling nothing no more. They locking it in like a commodity, like gold, oil, and real estate. There's going to be three things you're not going to be able to touch. You're going to be better off investing in REITs, real estate investment trusts, because real estate is going to be something unobtainable for this younger generation coming in.
And so I want to touch on that a little bit though, because it's making a whole lot of sense, and I just want to clarify for what to hear correctly what you're saying. It's like all of the different ways that the things that had value, every time they increase in value, corporations or the government take those things over.
Well, they take it over because they knew that was our ticket to building wealth. People got rich off of the gold rush. People got rich off of the oil, the movie There Will Be Blood. We got rich. Our people got rich off of real estate. And they said, damn,
now,
we just got to take it.
And it's funny because I'm looking at this article, a recent article that says there was a study by Georgia State University researchers, and they found that 3 corporations own more than 19,000 homes in Atlanta's 5 metro counties, right? And so they say that Atlanta has more of these properties than the next couple of metros combined, right? And so what it's sounding like, right? So you think 3 corporations, why do the corporations own 19,000 homes, right? And to your
just Atlanta.
So I'm just talking Metro Atlanta. And to your point, it's like, all right, bet I'm gonna buy these homes, right? I'm gonna buy these homes. If I'm a corporation, I'm gonna buy these homes at a price that I know that's gonna be competitive, that a regular seller can't really compete with me. I'm gonna give them above average, but like just like the regular investor, if you will, they're looking at maybe 5-10 years down the line, while the corporation is probably looking 20 years down the line.
They're not selling.
And you think about it's almost like a monopoly, if you will, right? Because I want to say, I think it was Chase or BlackRock bought 100,000.
Throughout the United States, last 5 years, they bought over 300,000 homes. And that's
Now, what he's talking about here is what we've seen over the last 6 months. We've seen that how these big companies come in and are swooping up and buying these homes. Now, here's the thing that we talk about in the council is the defensive thinking people are looking at this as, oh, they come in and take out all our housing and blah, blah, blah. And they're starting to raise up these rents and we getting nowhere to live. And then you start hearing the terms affordable housing. Meaning that, what is affordable housing? We need affordable housing, right? But what you have to understand, that as he was saying, that the real estate is now becoming a commodity just like oil and gold was. And what he's saying is that now, even with real estate, you're going to have to, at some point in time, the only people who's going to be able to afford real estate is buying a real estate investment trust, or that means like a stock, right? And so what he's saying is that, yes, they're coming in because these venture capitalists have so much money that they have to find other ways to invest. And if they don't, because they're going to be faced with a higher tax bracket. So therefore, they're using real estate to do it. As I said before in the council meetings, you can start to see the shift. Because if you look at now, there's 4 subdivisions are by me within the 15-mile radius that they're building brand new homes. But they're taking these brand new homes and all they're doing is renting them. In other words, it's an option from living in an apartment to living in a home. And so what he's also saying, this is why he's pivoting. He's pivoting because the neighborhoods are going bad. The real estate prices are going up. So he can sell a property, but the house that he wants to buy costs us twice as much. So now he has to pivot and say, okay, now what do I need to do? Because they're coming in to purchase these homes. And they're going to start talking about in his video is that most investors who had these homes, they were trying to sell them anyway. They were flipping them, renting them out, get a higher value for it, and then sell. But even gentlemen like him, he's starting to notice that game is being played out now. You won't be able to have fixing flips no more. But then also in the council, this is what we shared in the council, is that I found areas in different states that the houses are still low. I gave you guys an example of what the houses were, what the rents were going for, how you can flip them. There's still room to do it, but they're just in a different state. And the question that I have for you guys, are you guys willing to pivot instead of, if you want to get into real estate, are you willing to pivot and buy in another state? This gentleman here, Storm, is talking about buying property internationally. And I was sharing with you guys how GM is building a new plant. I think it was in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. And I went there to go survey the land. I had a business meeting there, and I went down to Huntsville and seen what was going on. But when I got on the real estate map and seen all of the houses that were available that was under $100,000, some of them was under $80,000. And I showed you guys that print. I showed you all of the maps where all of the houses were less than $100,000. They were decent old brick homes that just needed some fix up. And you could easily go get those homes and rent it out. And I said, this is one of the plays that we're looking at from an investment side, is how do we leverage those houses down there and make money off of it? So as he was saying, yes, the big companies are coming in because they have to find ways to increase their investments. And so this is where you start to see the regentrification stuff starting to happen. So what's happening now is like even some of the brothers are going and buying whole blocks and fixing them up. But what happens is that when they fix them up, you got these big companies that are offering them to buy the whole block that they just renovated at a higher price. And most investors are saying, well, let me go and take this money. And so because it's so tempting, because as an investor, that was your whole goal, is to make a profit off of this. But once you sell those homes, now the big corporations own them, and now nobody can get them. So now it's on, because remember, that middle class is gone. We talked about it earlier in this video. That middle class is gone. So that middle class can't even afford them. The lower middle class is going to have to rent. The higher middle class, what they're going to have to do is move further out or commute or whatever it is that they may have to do. So, but that middle part, that middle class area, that the average homes that were set for the middle class, the corporations are coming to buy those. They're not buying them all, but they're buying majority of them.
In the warm climates. They didn't go to the cold climates yet. And I tell people, my thing is this: they didn't go to the cold climates yet because we didn't start doing renovations and fixing them yet.
And we talked about this in the council as well, where I was telling you, I showed you some videos from 60 Minutes where it talks about the Sun Belt, that these companies were coming in focusing just on the Sun Belt areas. And what those Sun Belt areas is, these are the areas that they start to see a lot of people start to migrate because of those Sun Belt areas, is because of the weather. There's no extreme weather. There's no cold. It's a lot of people moving to Arizona because of the weather is nice in the winter. You got 3 or 4 months out of the year, you got to deal with the heat. They were looking at California and other areas, like how people from California was migrating to Arizona, dumping their houses in California, and then coming over to Arizona and buying a house cash. Well, those houses that were left in California, the big industries now has went over there, or the big companies have went over there and purchased them all. So that Sun Belt, the Arizona, Texas, Florida, I think New Mexico was in there too as well. But you can start to see the migration. And so it was that Sun Belt area that they were focusing on. Now, as I said in the council meeting, wherever the big man is focusing on, which is the Sun Belt, the little man has to look in another direction. And that's what I did. I looked in another direction. Everybody's focusing on the Sun Belt. Now they're leaving the other areas wide open. So my thing is, let's go see what Alabama is. They had tons of houses that were there that could easily be purchased for under $100,000. And a lot of it that I've seen too, as well as a big percentage of owner financing that you can have owner. I mean, you may not necessarily have to go to the bank. You make the deal with the owner, and then once you pay the owner what he needs, and then you leverage it from there. So this is an example of how they focus just on a certain area.
Like once we start fixing up Atlanta, Memphis, LA, Compton's, Bed-Stuy, and we went renovating all these neighborhoods, they said, thank you. I got it from here, yay. And now look, Detroit, Chicago, all these areas, we're renovating them. Don't you think they're going to come up there and go, thank you. We're going to buy from all of y'all who said we're going to fix up the blocks. And then they're going to take those. See what I mean? Because that's that thing, bro. When you're able to cut people's legs off and stop them from owning, and you got to think, it's not even us, it's our kids' kids. They are being trained to be renters. We grew up, we were groomed by our parents about, you better go own something. You better go own something. Because I heard my dad say it, and I went and bought something. But now you got kids now who parents are literally renters, and now they're not talking to them about renting. They're talking about how real estate's too high, houses cost too much. And that kid's growing up renting, so what he's going to do? Rent. He drive around, or he see signs that say for lease. He's going to become a renter. And once you control them and have them stuck, they have communities now, I want y'all to look this up, where they have forever leases, just whole communities built around rent, around leasing.
And it's funny because, so a couple of things, right? We'll unpack because number one, this thought process around, people, talking about like real estate. If I hear you correctly, the fix and flips are not even really helping us for real, right? So if you out here, saying, hey, fix and flip, you have actually an asset that's probably worth something. You're putting the money into that asset, making it nice. You're selling it to an investor who's probably going to give you some money. So you're going to make money one time on the short term. But the truth of the matter is that now you're taking that inventory is
never coming back.
Never coming back.
It's never coming back. So I admire everybody who does the fix and flips, right? But my thing is, you just admit it. Like you're in this for capitalism. You're not going to buy a house and then order say, you know what, I'm going to take a $50K loss on it. Like I did 2 posts where I sold 2 of my property. I sold one to a young student, just got her a loan in Atlanta. I think it was called Acorn or Hope or something like that, one of them programs. And I did another one in I think Detroit.
Now, as you can see, is that he was saying that this is what the investors doing. They're coming in and they're purchasing these homes in these areas after they've been renovated because they don't have to do the work. I can just come in and just buy it. All the hard work and all the labor is already has been done. So as we were speaking, I want to go over some of the red flags that he noticed in this situation. He noticed that people were starting to use the system, not pay their rent. He got stuck with paying the mortgage, but no income coming in. As he was saying, he probably lost about $100,000 in 1 year just dealing with that mess, right? The eviction started to increase. He noticed the people couldn't pay their rent, so he had to go start and evict them. People don't understand a lot of times when you're a landlord, it costs you a lot of money to evict somebody because you got to go do it. You can do it yourself. It's time consuming, or you can have a law firm do it for you and just have them do all your evictions. Well, they charge some good money, right? He started to see the effects of AI. A lot of us too as well. We starting to see the effects of AI, but we're not taking advantage of them. Communities were shifting, the middle class to the lower income areas. A lot of areas that were middle class are now being switched over to lower income areas. He started to see the declining start to produce the declining communities start to produce drugs, gambling, and crime. As he was saying, now you see a lot of the advertising is when usually there's a recession or a shift in the industries when it comes to economics, you'll start to see the rise of drugs and a rise of gambling. It never fails, right? And then, so we talked about here in the council is the intentional pivot. What did he have to do for his intentional pivot? He started investing in different areas. He started investing out of the country, right? Those are areas that haven't been tapped in yet. As I said before, we as an investment group and what we do in the council, we talk about investing in other countries, right? We have to be open to it. It talks about his pivot also came on because the corporations are buying up real estate, like oil and gold. And then the real estate investment trust. This is the thing that caught my attention is that, okay, I see where it's going. So now if the next move is going to be real estate investments, then what do we need to do to get ahead? How do I tap into the real estate investments? And I wanted to share this with you guys. And so I started doing research. And so I found out one of the companies that has went public and that has a stock on the real estate is they are an investment firm, but they allow other investment companies to dump money in to help them go buy more property. It says Invitation Homes, this is the name of the real estate company, is a public traded real estate investment trust listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Its ticker is INVH. As of 2019, BlackRock Inc. divested its stake in the company. The current ownership of Invitation Homes is primarily composed of institutional investors. What that means is that their fund is primarily of other private equity companies. That's who their clients are. As you can see here, as I broke it down, I did some research. Here's a list of all of their investment companies that they have under their belt. Just imagine if you owned a real estate company and you wanted to go out and buy real estate and all your clients were all investment companies. They want single people with accredited investors. You got investment companies investing large amounts of money into your organization for you to go out and purchase real estate. As we see here, Vanguard got over $10 trillion, which is 15% of the company's shares. They got 15%, which comes out to $10 trillion that they've invested in real estate dealing with invitational homes. Cohen and Steers, $86 billion. You look like Norris Bank. I think this is in another country, but they got $2 trillion that they've dumped in. BlackRock, $155 billion, which is 7% of their portfolio. State Street Corporation, they put up $46 trillion. And if you look at the total of all those investments, imagine being Invitation Homes and your budget that you can go buy real estate with is $58 trillion. That's how much buying power they have. And that's all over the world. And so if you look at here, you add that up, I took the average cost of a home in Arizona is $450,000 now. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a decent neighborhood. The average home is $450,000. But just imagine if you bought 120 million homes. I'm just kind of put it in perspective. If you got $58 trillion, that means you can go out and buy $120 million homes at $450,000 a pop. That's how, I just want you guys to see that because that's how much buying power that is. And you heard him talk about it in the video that it's kind of like a monopoly. And it is. You can corner that. If they really want to go hard, I know they don't want to deal with the backlash, but if they really wanted to just go ahead and just buy all of these homes, they would. The house that you're living in right now, and let's just say somebody offered you 25, 30% more than what it's worth, you're going to think about it. You're like, $150,000 more, plus what I'm going to get off of it when I sell it, looking at $350,000. Some of you say, oh, I can do that $350,000. But the question is when you buy that, when you sell it, and you got $350,000, you see the average cost in Arizona is $450,000. The question is where you going to go buy another house at, right? And some people have done that because they've learned to downsize. You know, the kids are out of the house. They may take that deal, take the $350,000 and go find a smaller home somewhere. May travel the world. May move into a different state and buy a home cash and be debt free. Right? So I just wanted to share with you that this is what it looks like when you're looking at Invitation Homes. This is a public traded company. Now here's what, as of 4/11/2025, when I looked at the price, the stock price is $32.12. Now, this is some of the things that I share with your brothers about being in the stock market. You ain't got to know a whole lot about the stock market, but you do have to understand the fundamentals on how it works. But if we look at this is a stock for $32. It's low right now compared to stocks like Tesla, $400 stock price. It went down a little bit. I think it's now $300 something a stock, but you can get in at $32 a share. Meaning that if you're not invested in real estate on the landlord and investment side, this is what he was talking about, the real estate investment trust. This is something you can get in real estate from this way because it's going to increase. So this is a good price to get in on. If you look at it compared to other stocks, you can't beat it, right? $32 a month. You can take $32 a month and buy a stock every month. And at the end of the year or end of the 12 months, you got 12 stocks. You keep doing that. Sometimes you look at how much money we waste. Some of you spend $32 on junk every week. Just imagine buying a stock for $32 every week. You just dump $32 in the stock every week because it's going to increase, right? So Invitational Homes here, so they engage in acquisitions, renovations, leasing, and operation of single-family homes and real estate properties, including single-family homes and planned unit developments. Its services include property management, selection of homes, maintenance program, and online payment. So these are some of the things that they're tapping into. And I said before, as a council member and being part of the council, we focus on, okay, we got a new industry coming. How can we tap in on it? You guys, we talked about the council. We talked about the nuts and bolts of businesses. You don't necessarily have to be an investor, but you can find a business that supports the industry. Like I see here, like maintenance program. Some of you guys got maintenance backgrounds. You can easily start your maintenance company and then find some of these invitational home type businesses and say, hey, can I get on your vendors list and be one of your maintenance? If one of the houses, the refrigerator go down or needs to be replaced or dryer breaks or AC goes out, whatever it is, I want to be one of the vendors that you call to go and replace these things. That's a business that can be started. You don't necessarily got to own real estate, but you can definitely start a business that complements the industry. All right. So here's the good news. I know a lot of that is a lot of information, but a lot of times we talk about in the council, I don't want you guys to understand this is not to scare you. If you're in a defensive mindset, it will scare you because you start to panic. It'll cause some type of panic on what do I need to do now, right? So what the good news is this is where we're different at in the council. This is why it's so important to be a part of the council because we're going to share information where majority of the people will look at it and get scared and get fearful. And then, as I said, like our black community, we want to start a riot. We want to start. We want to revolt the system. We got to stop this. We got to stop them coming in and buying up all our houses in the neighborhood. It don't work. That's not how we operate in the council. What we do in the council is we see the situation. So, okay, now what can we do to pivot? How are we going to get ahead of this? What are the other opportunities that's out there for us to jump in and be a part of? Right, and like you brothers understand this picture, I use this picture on all of our council meetings, and I wanted to use it for a celebration picture. But here, this is talking about the good news. I got good news for you, and this is what being a part of the council was about. Is that God's principles don't change with the economy. You hear us talk a lot about the council and how important it is to be on God's principles. God's principles. Being a part of the council has many facets of why it's so important that we've laid our foundation with the council on God's principle. The first thing is that it keeps all of my board members accountable. It keeps us accountable to one another. We know what the word says. We're all believers in God. We understand what it means to serve God. So my board members are understanding. They understand how important it is to have God in our lives and how we use God's principles to keep us accountable. That's our foundation. Right now, when we're talking about business and just dealing with this particular setting, our finances and our careers in business, God's principles don't change. God's principles are always about being on the offense. And what we do at the council, we find those principles that's pertaining to what we just talked about and say, okay, listen, now how do we take this principle and apply it to our careers and finances and business, and how do we move forward to be a blessing? Now, as I said before, you hear me say this all the time at the council meeting. If you are not serving God like the way we do, you would call us Christians or believers, but you may have a higher power. You may have Allah. You may have a different higher power, but whatever that your higher power is, I always ask that you find the principles of that religion or that belief system that you have and base everything that you have on those principles. Here at the council, we base it on the Bible, God's principles. Now, as we said before, we can get into this all day about the God's Bible, if it's the white man's Bible, if it's the black man's Bible. It's about principles. Don't get hung up on who Bible it was. It's a lot of people misuse the Bible. We talk about it in the council all the time. You're going to keep hearing me reference, we talk about it in the council because these are the things that we talk about. You know, they got the slave Bible. They're talking about, well, what about the slave master used the Bible to contain the slaves? Well, that's true, but they misused the Bible. Just because the slave master misused the Bible doesn't discredit the Bible. The slave master misused it. And thank God he did, because if we'd believed that, we'd be stuck. But as you will come to the council, we explain all of this. The Bible is about principles and is giving you instructions. Okay, now, this is why we created the council, because we knew that economies changes. As a man in this society or in this world, you're going to be faced with a lot of challenges, especially if you're a husband or if you're a father or you're a leader in the community. You have to learn how to balance this situation out, and there's no better way to do it than trust in God. There's no better place. There's no comfort. There's nothing more peaceful than leaning on God to show you how to get through it. As I said before, there's no way around it, but you got to go through it. But it's okay to go through it because this is what God uses to build up our character. This is what God uses to build up commitment. We get traits as being persistent, being a person of integrity. This is all comes through the trials that we go through. So there's no way around it. You just got to go through it. But the good part is that you got God that's going to assist you getting through it, and so that you get to the other side, and then that you be more prosperous in your life. Okay, so this is why we created it. It says we're not just teaching you how to survive, we're showing you how to be successful. Here at the council, I have my board members are ranges from VPs to directors to doctors to high level gentlemen in their careers, wealth of knowledge. And if something that I can't teach you, they can. And this is the difference with the council. You come for the brotherhood, but you come because we're going to show you how to get these things done. We'll show you how to be successful. We'll show you how to use the biblical wisdom that God has given us to be successful. We want to show you how to be financial literate, right? And find different entrepreneurial strategies, as we would call it back in the day, the hustles. We're going to find ways to get through this. It says we do all of this in a time when the world is full of fear and confusion, is what we call distractions. And as we see right now, the world right now is full of a lot of things that's happening, and people are going to a scarcity mindset, which is the worst thing to do. You got to be moving forward. You got to be forward thinking. Okay. Now, we in the council, we talk about pivoting a lot because you're always making adjustments along the way. But we're in this particular situation dealing with the finances, careers, and your business. We're pivoting from a paycheck dependent mentality. In other words, we're not focusing on one paycheck or one source of income. You have to find another way to create another form of income, whether if it's in the same career field or out of the career field that you're in. But we can't depend on one source of income. We have to have some other avenue, whether if it's some guys choose investing, some guys choose day trading. I chose to hustle and do things on the side of several businesses that I've started, right? And so there's things that we have to get out of when we're looking at this situation when the world is going crazy and everybody else is being afraid. We're going from a fear-based living mentality, and we're going from a scarcity mentality. This is what I see a lot in our community, is that you hear a lot of people say, well, all this stuff is going on, man. I just want to go move on a farm and be secluded from everybody. And that's fine. We're not knocking that. But that's not the solution for us to move the rest of these brothers forward. And a lot of times we have community people or people in our community that think that's their way out. and it's not a way out. Even if you moved on a farm or you lived in a, what we say, I'm gonna go move into a tiny home. Bills still need to get paid. There's income that needs to come in. There's revenue that needs to come in to pay for wherever life you decide. All we're saying is that you don't have to have a retreat mindset. You don't have to be running away from it. No, we run towards it. We run towards it because that's where the opportunity and freedom is really lies, right? And so it goes back to what we're talking about, having an offensive mindset. Now, why should you join the council? And dealing with your finances in your career and business, these are the 3 key points on why you should join the council. You will learn how to multiply your income without quitting your job. You will get the blueprints for building a side business rooted in biblical principles. And 3, support from the brothers who are building, investing, and winning together. This is where the true brotherhood really happens. There's a slide that we go over all the time where it shows the picture of the 4 lions. A lot of times we think that we all got to pool our money in to come together in one big group. No, we don't. That's not what the council is about. What the council is we want to develop lions. If I can create one lion here and create another lion, meaning that they're all kings. If everybody here has their own kingdom that's successful, then we can come together as a group and say, okay, what can I do to assist to move this group forward? There's a difference. It's not a whole bunch of brothers that ain't got a lot of money and we pulling our money together so we can have one big pot and then we can go do some work. No, what I'm talking about is that every brother that comes through that backyard is self-employed or he's self-independent. He has his own money and he's coming to say, okay, what can I do to move this forward? How can I offer my services to help these young brothers that's coming behind us? What do I need to do? In other words, they're coming to serve. And if putting some money on the table to help a youth program to do it, I know I can call this brother, say, hey man, can I get 150? Or hey brother, can I get 150? I got a bunch of kings that I can call and say, hey, can you help out with sending us 150 so we can sponsor 15 kids to go to a summer camp? Versus calling a brother and say, well, I ain't got it, man. I ain't got $150. Well, then my job is, as this visionary of this council, is to say, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to get you to a place where you can start being independent of your own and creating your own success so that you can come and serve, whether if it's financially or just with your time. All right. So this is one thing about being with the council. This is our goal here, is to build kings, that they become independent, and then that we can lean on them to help us push this agenda forward. Now, join the council now, as we talked about, and take control of your future before the economy takes control of you. This is your moment to pivot and not to panic. There's a link in the description below. Click on that link. If you're not already have joined the council, send this video to a friend, have them click on the link and join. And be a part of a brotherhood that we're all about positive thinking. We're all about moving forward. We're all about a positive mindset, where we talked about being an offensive mindset. And we're here to build these young brothers that's behind us. I'm 54, so we got two or three generations that we can definitely gain some. We have wisdom that we can give to these young brothers, and this is an opportunity for these young brothers to come to sit up under some other men who are successful in life. We have 2 generations behind me that grew up without a father. They have no concept of what it means to be around brotherhood. They have no concept of sometimes seeing other black men or other brown men or other men in general that are successful. And the question is how did you guys do it? And this is what this council was about. All right, thank you for tuning in. Like I said before, thank you for being a part of this deep dive. We'll have many more of these where we take sections out of our council meeting and we could do a deep dive on them, and we go into some details, and we got some other good things coming to the council as well via our YouTube channel. So remember, it's just to click, subscribe, and leave a comment. And we can definitely address some of the comments during our next meeting. If you guys got questions about certain things, feel free. All right, see you guys later.